Gavin Newsom continues to suffer court losses over the Second Amendment because I guess he just doesn't understand that it shall not be infringed. And it's right there in black and white. I want to get to this story recently. This came out this past week. So if you are a Second Amendment advocate, a court blocks ammunition background checks in new blow to California's gun control framework. So there was a law that was passed years ago, back in 2018. So this was really a long time ago. In 2018, before the law went into effect, a group of gun right advocates and ammunition vendors sued to block the law. It's been hanging around for a long time. So this gives you an idea of how long, just by passing these laws, this is really the infringement. Is they pass these laws, they get tied up in courts for 5 to 6 years before we ever get a ruling on any of these Second Amendment cases. And to them, I guess they feel like that's a win because they've prevented you from really exercising your Second Amendment right. The article goes on to say, today's ruling helped clarify what a post-Bruen future could look like. Given the fees and delays associated with California's ammunition background check regime and the wide range of transactions to which it applies, we conclude that in all applications, a regime meaningfully constrains California residents' right to keep and bear arms. Justice Sandra Segal-Ikuta wrote in the 2-1 majority opinion. Newsom, in a written statement, criticized the decision, quote, strong gun laws save lives, and today's decision is a slap in the face to the progress California has made in recent years to keep its communities safer from gun violence. Californians voted to require background checks on ammunition, and their voices should matter. Now, let's keep in mind here that why the timeline is important is because this was voted on or passed into law in 2018. There was the Bruen decision that came out recently in the past couple of years. So the Bruen decision had a lot to do with carrying a firearm out in the public, and did talk a lot about the historical precedent of the Second Amendment and your right to bear arms. And that opened a lot of opportunity for Second Amendment gun right advocates to take a lot of these California cases to federal court and say, you are violating this standard under the Bruen standard, which is this new historical precedence, and what was the intent of it. And that does change a lot of things. So when it was originally put into law, Bruen was not into effect. And now with Bruen in effect, this changes a lot of things. This goes on to say, the background check law is different in the appellate court rule because it meaningfully constrains people's ability to purchase ammunition, which previous Ninth Circuit decisions have found is foundational to a person's ability to own guns. In court, the state's attorney also proposed that California's ammunition sales law conform to the United States' historical tradition of regulating guns, citing colonial-era laws or laws written after the Civil War. In a fiery dissent, now a dissent is when one of the judges doesn't agree with the majority and they just want to, have their 2 cents heard. They're useful. Dissents have their place. They can make some good arguments that maybe somebody picks up later, but sometimes in dissents, it's just they want to get it off their chest and kind of complain about the majority. In a fiery dissent, Judge J. Bybee said the decision failed to correctly apply the Bruen test, and that using the logic of the decision, any firearms regulation could be interpreted as a violation of the Second Amendment. Great. That sounds sort of like what we've been talking about for a long time, is shall not be infringed and all these regulations. And that's what the Second Amendment kind of stands for. And the Supreme Court paved the way for this with Bruen. I mean, if that's what he thinks, great. That's good news for all of us. Then a lot of California laws should really be struck down based on that. Quote, it's difficult to imagine a regulation on the acquisition of ammunition or firearms that would not meaningfully constrain the right to keep and bear arms under the majority's new general applicability standard, Bybee wrote in the dissent. Well, you don't throw guns at people. You need ammunition. That's sort of the point. They kind of go, it's like bread and butter. They kind of go together. You sort of need the ammunition for a gun to work. You can't just throw guns at people. I mean, you could throw a gun at a person, but it's not as effective as if you actually had ammunition. So Gavin Newsom suffers another loss regarding the Second Amendment. He has been suffering, several losses again and again, especially with this new Bruen decision. Now, there are a couple other laws or cases that I want to bring your attention to right now, and that is Nguyen versus Bonta. They struck down California's one gun a month law. So that has been struck down by the Ninth Circuit. Miller versus Bonta, which is still ongoing, was filed in 2021. A federal judge in the Southern District of California declared the state's ban on assault weapons unconstitutional in 2021, argued that it violated the Second Amendment. It's still pending, but based on this whole new Bruen decision, we probably could see some movement on that. Carolina versus Bonta, 2023, still ongoing. Senate Bill 2, which is probably the most egregious to me, is Senate Bill 2, where they basically tried to restrict your complete use of the carry and conceal principle. You would not be able to carry and conceal. I am not joking when I say, as a carry conceal permit holder myself, I looked at the law, and basically the only place you'd be able to carry and conceal is the sidewalk in front of your house, maybe walking to your car, and that's about it. Everywhere else would be prohibited. Restaurants, stores, everything would be prohibited. Everything's a sensitive place. So that's what they did with SB2. SB2 was also passed in sort of retaliation for what the Supreme Court came out with Bruen. Basically, they said, well, if that's the standard about sensitive places, and then we're going to make everything sensitive. Likely this will get struck down because it is such an affront to the fact that Bruen came out carrying concealed. Now, even though he is facing a ton of losses and he continues to file these frivolous lawsuits regarding the Second Amendment, did you know Gavin Newsom is no enemy to the Second Amendment? That's right. He's no enemy to the Second Amendment. He's a friend. He loves the Second Amendment. He respects it, loves the Second Amendment. I want to show you this clip right quick from a recent podcast he did.
Is this an actual? I got to report this gift, man.
That is a California compliant Sig Sauer
This
E365 macro.
Come on, man.
I don't know exactly what makes it.
By the way, this is too cool. The fact that you would give me this.
You
can't
like
even
that?
look this up. So you just want me to TSA to take this from me and my ass is arrested at the airport. I'm on to you, man.
Well, I got a buddy at SIG, and now he was like, "You gotta get a SIG in his
You can't
hands."
even make
Name's
this up,
Jason.
brother. This is fabulous. You know what? Last thing people would expect is that I respect this gift.
Really?
I appreciate. Yeah, man. I'm not anti-gun at all. I'm for.
Well, first off, I don't have a prop. This is the best I can have. But anybody else find it funny that he holds the gun like it's radioactive and icky, and he holds it like oh look at that, oh, a gun, thank you. And at one point he actually flipped it around with the muzzle facing Sean Ryan, which anybody who's in the chat or in comments knows what's the number one rule of gun safety is you do not point your firearm at something you do not want to destroy. So him flipping it around, oh, it's really nice. Hold on. It looked like he didn't know how to handle it. I've never seen anyone hold a gun like this, like gingerly like this. You can tell he doesn't really handle a lot of firearms. And first off, his this whole I'm not anti-gun. I know you're floored. To hear Gavin Newsom say he's not anti-gun. We'll get into it more with a little bit more details.
Some gun safety common sense that I think vast majority of folks on the right and the left agree. And I think we've lost a little touch with some common sense around background checks. I think there's an age appropriateness. I do have some, I'm challenged by large capacity magazine clips in urban centers and weapons of war that are out there, sometimes outgunning the police. And I've experienced that directly with the loss of a police officer who was gunned down by an AK-47, and the police were outgunned in Bayview Hunters Point in San Francisco.
Couple things here. So he says he's not anti-gun. He's for common sense gun law. He's for common sense gun safety, for background checks. That's always something Democrats say is the background checks. Anytime you go purchase a firearm, anyone in the chat, you want to let me know, raise your hand, say yes. How many times have you gone to purchase a firearm and had a background check? Right? How many? You've all had to do it. Like, that is part of buying a firearm is a background check. You have to go through the DOJ and everything. It is literally the first thing they do before they even sell you the firearm. that this whole idea that there's no background checks and that people are just walking in and buying stuff off the street, which leads to the second point of, well, if you're buying a gun with no background check and you're buying an AK-47 that is illegal and not allowed in California, then that is a problem of illegal gun running that has nothing to do with legal gun owners, who are probably the most responsible gun owners and the safest gun owners because they don't want to lose their right. So where did they get that AK-47? You're conflating crime and gun running with those who practice their Second Amendment rights properly and care about gun safety. And that's something Democrats always do, is they make it sound like, well, it's just all these crazy gun nuts are out here able to get all these weapons of war and stuff like that. That's why we need to put all these restrictions on. No. It's not the people who are pro-gun and are actually really responsible. It's usually the criminals and those who are running guns that get their hands on these illegal guns that you want to ban.
But otherwise, man, people have the right to bear arms, and I got no ideological opposition to that at all.
Do you think?
Bullshit. Excuse me. Sorry, I got something in my throat. I should probably take a drink of water.
I was
Thank
going
you,
to.
by the way.
You're welcome.
That's crazy. Last damn thing I expected. I expected a hat. Okay, you gave me a goddamn gun.
Well, I got another gift for you too.
Dude. Okay, all
But
right.
but diving into the 2A.
Remember, he's a man of faith, and he loves to say "G damn." That's the man of faith, Gavin Newsom, right there. He loves to drop the G damn. All right, well, you heard it right there. Gavin Newsom respects and loves the Second Amendment, and these are all just common sense. This is all just common sense stuff that he wants to implement. I mean, come on, you look at it; it's all common sense, and he's a friend of the Second Amendment. And he doesn't think what he's doing is too crazy. He loves guns. I mean, he's a big Second Amendment guy. I'd love to see Gavin. I don't think I've ever seen footage of Gavin Newsom shoot. If you remember back in 2008, they posted some cringe footage of Barack Obama trying to shoot skeet. Like, they put him out somewhere and they gave him the little orange shotgun and they made him like shoot skeet. And they're like, oh, look at what a manly man he is. He can actually shoot a shotgun, stuff like that. Wait until you start seeing the videos of Gavin Newsom shooting and how awkward that's going to be. You know, he's going to have to learn that you can't hold a gun like this. You're going to actually have to grab it. But I want to take a look at all these common sense things that Gavin Newsom, friend of the Second Amendment, right? He's a Mr. I love the Second Amendment, respect it. Let's take a look at this. I did my homework, and I want to just show you the laws that were signed in by Gavin Newsom regarding gun restrictions. So let me pull this up right here. Did my homework, made a nice little art project for you. So let's see, this is starting in 2019. These are all signed. These are all signed into law. Let's see. I'm trying to sale of firearms precursor conducted through a licensed vendor, prohibits the sale of firearms in San Diego County at Del Mar Fairgrounds. Strengthen the regulation of firearms storage, gun show regulations, keeps going on. Limits the purchase of semi-automatic rifles to 1 gun per month, regulates the sale of firearm, adds restrictions on ghost guns. That's a big thing that they always make up about these ghost guns. Authorizes private lawsuits against those who import, distribute, manufacture, or sell illegal firearms. Basically what they did with Texas in the abortion law. So that was another thing that they did in retaliation. California loves to pass these in retaliation. So this is stuff signed in 2023. SB 2, which we went over, strengthens concealed carry regulations by doubling training time, which is now a pain in the butt. They've increased fees, which makes it even harder. AB 28 imposes an 11% state tax on firearms and ammunition to fund school safety. Let's see. Now, this one is crazy. AB 1089 requires semi-automatic pistols sold in California have micro-stamping technology. Now, if you're not familiar with what micro-stamping is the idea that a gun hypothetically could have the technology to put a tiny little serial number on every casing that is fired. So that way, when they find the casing and go, oh, this is from serial number gun, blah, 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 and it belongs to this person. Most gun companies don't have that. So basically, by requiring all gun manufacturers to include microstamping, you've effectively banned every single gun in California, because if you don't have microstamping, you can't sell in California. This is a sneaky way around just getting rid of all guns in California, because gun manufacturers are not going to go through the whole trouble of making a microstamp just for a gun in California. It's already hard enough with the California roster and stuff like that, which to me, I think the California roster actually makes it less safe, because you can't get new generations of firearms that are more safe. Instead, you're using generations, 2 or 3 generations behind, which are not as safe. So that's their sneaky way around it. And Rob Bonta, of course, said, hypothetically, the technology exists for microstamping, so of course we're going to keep going with it. Let's see. Enhances background checks for firearm purchases to prevent prohibited persons from acquiring guns. That makes sense. We don't want those people getting guns. Requires secure storage of firearms in homes when not carried or controlled. Prohibits firearm possession for 10 years and older. Bans ammunition possession for individuals. Mental health. Yeah, that makes sense. Requires age-appropriate and foreign accent shooter. Expands red flag laws to include threats of hate-based violence. Prohibits the sale of firearms, parts of blah, blah, blah. So if you take a look at all of that and you look at that list and you go, boy, he looks like the friend of Second Amendment. And some of those are just common sense, like microstamping, common sense. It's technology that does not exist, but it's common sense. That's all common sense gun safety. And I do want to say this, kind of to wrap this all up about Gavin Newsom. He keeps suffering these losses in litigation in court, and he's going to continue to suffer them based on the new Bruen standard that's out from the Supreme Court and the historical precedents and all that. That's the new standard. He's going to continue to lose in court, but being the slippery, slick politician that he is, he's going to go on shows like the Sean Ryan Show. He's going to go tour the Midwest. He's going to go tour the South, and he's going to pretend like he's some big fan of the Second Amendment. He loves the Second Amendment. He just wants common sense. That's what he keeps saying, common sense. But when you look at all those gun laws that he has passed and that he has signed, then you go, are any of these real? Are all of these common sense? Now, some of them are common sense. Some of them you want to keep out of the hands of those with mental illness or with a criminal history, sure. Are all of them common sense? Is microstamping common sense? Is banning conceal and carry common sense? A lot of these things are not incredibly common sense, but he's passed a lot of them. Any gun law that he sees, he usually signs it. And not to mention, this is also the guy who wanted to introduce a constitutional amendment regarding gun safety, changing all sorts of things like age of, background checks, age to own a gun, all of this stuff. He wanted to introduce a new constitutional amendment. So you're going to see the pivot of Gavin Newsom on the Second Amendment. I guarantee it. He's going to pretend like he's a friend of the Second Amendment, but we have the receipts. Those are the laws that he has signed into law here in California. That's going to follow him around. So let me know in the comments. Do you think he'll be able to successfully pivot and pretend he's a friend of the Second Amendment, or do you think his past is going to catch up with him?